Okay, now, Mr. Schwartz, you've had a chance to consult with your client. Can you tell me how we're proceeding on this?
Thank you, Your Honor. We're going to be proceeding with guilty pleas on most of the counts. 2 of them will be with explanation, and then the count regarding his new criminal activity. It's my understanding that Mr. Lewis, the case against him was dismissed. So I don't believe that he'd be pleading guilty to that. However, the rest he will be.
So you're talking about possession of fentanyl?
In West Virginia.
Okay, I'm just going to dismiss that one. The fact that it's dismissed doesn't mean it couldn't be a PV, but
Sure.
I don't think that it's necessary to even fool around with it. So, Mr. Lewis, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, as I said before, you have the right to a contested hearing. If you plead guilty, you won't have a contested hearing and you'll give up the rights that go along with it. That includes the right to have these allegations proven, the right to have the witnesses against you appear at the hearing and to be able to cross-examine them, the right to have this court order any witnesses that you might have to appear at the hearing, and also the right to testify yourself at the hearing if you wanted to. Do you understand those rights?
Yes, I do.
Has anyone made any promises to get you to plead guilty to probation violation?
Nobody did anything, Your Honor. It's my decisions.
Okay, very good. Has anyone used, I'm required to ask you though, has anyone used any threats or forced you in any way?
No, not at all.
Are you pleading guilty because you believe you did violate probation?
I did violate probation, Your Honor.
Okay, so as I understand it, you left the state without the consent of this court in beginning of February of last year. Is that true?
Yes, I left the state, Your Honor.
Okay, and then you basically absconded from probation at that point. In other words, you didn't report or do the things you're supposed to be doing?
I did, Your Honor, but there was a reason behind it, but yes.
Okay, I promise you, I'll give you a chance when we get to sentencing. You can tell me whatever reason you wish. And then did you also fail to attend anger management classes?
Yes, it was a reason behind that too, but I did, Your Honor.
All right. I'm skipping the possession of fentanyl, but did you test positive for fentanyl?
That's what I was told. She said it was very little, like I touched some, but I guess I did, so yes.
Okay, it's quite sensitive as I understand it, but the court finds the plea is understandingly, voluntarily, and knowingly made. It is supported by the testimony. The plea of guilty is accepted. Mr. Lewis is found guilty of probation violation. Agent Mills, is there a recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. First off, I want to apologize for the lapse in time for this violation getting in front of the court. I just assumed supervision of this case and noticed that these violations were never reported. At the time of these violations, he was serving his probation in Oakland County, and they were primarily supervising him. It appears that he absconded while in Oakland County, and our court was never made aware that he had absconded. Therefore, we had just requested the bench warrant for that. As a result of him absconding in that county, his probation was revoked on that docket, and he was sentenced to 180 days. For our docket, again, similar violations, I'm asking that he be sentenced to 120 days with credit for 72. To my understanding, because he absconded for more than 60 days, not be considered a technical violation, and we would have free range when it comes to sentencing recommendations.
That is correct. So you're recommending revocation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And now your turn, Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just briefly point out the fact that Mr. Lewis didn't report to Oakland County as instructed in February of last year. Obviously, we all know the COVID situation, especially how new it was a year ago. Now, Your Honor, he did contact my office very early in the spring telling me the dilemma. I called over to the Oakland County Circuit Court, the clerk there, for the judge that he was in front of. And we were told either he can go to the jail, but they don't know when he would go in front of a judge, or he could simply wait. But if he waits, the warrant will remain intact. Finally, Your Honor, things got a little bit more settled, even though, again, the COVID situation has turned for the worse. But he did go in, he reported, and at that point pled guilty, took responsibility for his actions, and he was indeed sentenced to 180 days in Oakland County Jail. At this point, Your Honor, I would respectfully ask you give him credit for all that time served and give him a concurrent or a similar sentence in our case so that he may get on with his life. He does have a job. He is somebody who is not avoiding the court system. And again, I think that it would be prudent to allow him to move on with his life. And I know that my client wanted to say a few words to Your Honor as well as to what happened as well as his remorse.
Yes, of course. Mr. Lewis, what would you like to say?
Honestly, I'm just here to tell you and accept full responsibility for all my actions. I know what I did was wrong. I was on probation at the time. Honestly, I'm a changed man. I own a business, so I left the state trying to build my business up for me and my family. I have full custody of my son now. I've been trying for a year and a half to turn myself in, but they won't let us do the COVID. I did drop dirty for fentanyl, I'm guessing, but the business I do, I deal with money, so I'm guessing I probably touched some money or something that had it on there. I'm not a flight risk or anything, Your Honor. I have plenty of people behind me. I have had them text and talk to your clerk and try to, but mainly I'm just here to accept full responsibility and ask her, can I get like at least 90 days time served or some type of tether to go home. I just want to go home today. And thank you.
And Your Honor, a brief follow-up. Yes, my client did have letters sent on his behalf. I believe the court received them.
I did.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to adopt in part and modify in part the recommendation, Mr. Lewis, and recognizing that you were on probation initially for a 4-year nonviolent drug possession felony. And I'm going to revoke your probation and sentence you to 90 days in jail with credit for 72 days already served. The bench warrant is dismissed. And Mr. Lewis, you have the right to file an application for leave to appeal your conviction and your sentence in this matter. You're entitled to an attorney at public expense to assist you in doing that. If you're making a request for one, you have to make it within 42 days of today's date. There is a form that tells more about that and that you use for the appeal, and we will mail it to you. But that will end your obligation to the court on probation, and that will conclude this hearing, unless you have any questions, Mr. Lewis.
No, I don't. I just want you to I just want to thank you, and I want y'all to have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Your
Good
Honor.
luck to you.
Thank you.
All right. And you can tell them.
And you said 90 days?
Yeah, with credit for 72.
Is that good time included?
72 days, she said.
The sheriff's good time will come off of that as well. So my estimation